The wildest part of the Sheamus story is not that he's leaving WWE. It's that at 48 years old, after nearly 2 decades in one company, after injury, surgery, and all the mileage that comes with a career like his, Sheamus may have just pulled off the one move most veterans never get to make. He didn't get released. He didn't get pushed out with a waiting period attached. He looked at WWE's new offer, reportedly saw less money on the table, and said no. And just like that, one of the most decorated names of the modern era became one of the most interesting free agents in wrestling. If you're into wrestling stories where one decision can shake up the whole industry, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments where you think Sheamus shows up next, because this one could go in a lot of different directions. You're watching the FFECDOSHORTS. Now let's slow this down, because the timeline here is what makes the story explode. The first big report came from Fightful, and the headline was simple but massive. Sheamus is set to leave WWE when his current contract expires. Not released, not future endeavored, not quietly cut. His deal is just ending, and instead of agreeing to stay under the new terms WWE reportedly offered him, he turned the deal down. That distinction matters way more than people think. Because when fans hear a wrestler is leaving WWE, they usually imagine the company making the call. Budget cuts. Creative has nothing for them. The relationship is done. But that's not what this sounds like. This sounds like WWE came to Sheamus and said, "Here's a new version of the deal." And Sheamus looked at it and decided it wasn't worth signing. That is a completely different kind of exit. And it gets even more interesting when you look at when that conversation reportedly happened. According to multiple reports, WWE approached Sheamus while he was already sidelined with shoulder injury, not when he was red hot on TV, not while he was in the middle of a big comeback run, not when he had all the leverage that comes from momentum. They approached him while he was out, recovering, and not even active in the ring. That tells you everything about how the company was viewing this negotiation. Sheamus had suffered the injury late last year and later underwent shoulder surgery. Since then, he's been out of action. So picture the situation from a side. You're a veteran. You've given this company almost 20 years. You've won everything there is to win, except one title fans have joked about for years. Your body is recovering from surgery. And while you're on the shelf, the company comes to you asking for a reworked contract that, by all indications, meant less money. And instead of taking the safe route, instead of accepting the pay cut just to keep the machine moving, he reportedly shut it down fast. That alone would be a big story. But then the older interview clips came back around, and suddenly the whole thing got even messier. Because not that long ago, Sheamus had openly said he signed what he described as a 5-year extension with WWE. He talked about wanting to go until the wheels fell off. He sounded like a guy who fully expected to finish his career there. No drama, no swerves, no surprise late career jump. Just Sheamus in WWE until his body finally told him it was time. And now here we are, barely over a year later, talking about his contract expiring and his exit becoming very real. So immediately, people started asking the obvious question. What happened to that 5-year deal? That's where this story gets a little murky. Some reports have pointed out that the contract details don't fully line up with the public version people heard before. The dates, the structure, the way the deal may have been framed internally versus publicly, it all creates this weird gap in the story. Maybe the original agreement wasn't exactly what fans assumed it was. Maybe the terms changed somewhere along the way. Maybe there were layers to the deal that never made it into the soundbite version. Whatever the explanation turns out to be, the end result is the same. Sheamus is on the way out, and he's leaving because he reportedly refused to accept a restructured offer. And if you zoom out for a second, that part might be the most important business signal in the whole story. Because this doesn't sound like an isolated one-off. For the last few months, there's been increasing talk that WWE has been approaching multiple talents about reworked deals and reduced pay. This isn't being framed as some emotional breakup with one wrestler. It looks more like a broader philosophy shift. A company that for years was known for rewarding loyalty and keeping respected veterans comfortable deep into their careers now seems much more willing to say, if you want to stay, it'll be on terms we like better. And some people are saying no. That matters. Because when someone at Sheamus level says no, it changes how every other veteran in that locker room sees the table in front of them. Then came the public clues. No dramatic farewell promo. No official WWE tribute package. No heartfelt final speech with a camera zooming in while the crowd chants one more match. Nothing like that. Instead, the announcement came the way wrestling news often comes now, through little digital breadcrumbs that fans instantly read like crime scene evidence. Sheamus changed his display name on social media to S. Fairly, using his real surname. He removed WWE branding from his bio. The bio itself got stripped down to something almost weirdly simple. Pro wrestler. That was it. No explanation. No paragraph. No goodbye message. Just a subtle online rebrand that said more than 1,000 words ever could. Then fans noticed he had also been moved into WWE's alumni section on the company website. And once that happened, the internet did what the wrestling internet always does. It exploded. Because now this wasn't just a rumor floating around insiders and backstage circles. Now people could see the smoke for themselves. The brand association was disappearing in real time. The company page had shifted. The identity had shifted. And the silence from both sides only made it louder. But the biggest reason everyone in wrestling started paying attention wasn't the social media stuff. It was the contract mechanism. Because Sheamus is not reportedly being released. His contract is expiring. That means a standard 90-day non-compete clause that traps so many WWE exits likely does not apply here. And that changes absolutely everything. Think about how huge that is. Most departures come with a built-in waiting period. Even if fans know where someone is probably headed next, they have to sit around for weeks or months while the clock runs down. The heat cools off. The surprise fades. The momentum gets delayed. Promotions can tease all they want, but nothing can actually happen until the paperwork clears. That does not seem to be the case here. If Sheamus' deal expires the way it's being reported, he is free the moment that contract lapses. No forced pause. No artificial cooldown. No 3-month delay before somebody else can put him on television. He can go anywhere. And more importantly, he can go anywhere fast. That is why this story instantly jumped from veteran might be leaving to the whole market just changed. Because an unrestricted Sheamus is not a normal free agent. This is not some mid-card talent quietly testing the waters. This is a 4-time world champion, a Royal Rumble winner, a Money in the Bank winner, a King of the Ring winner, a multi-time tag champion, a guy who beat John Cena for the WWE title less than 6 months after hitting the main roster. A wrestler whose career resume is so loaded that the only missing trophy has basically become a long-running fan meme. And yes, that missing trophy matters too. The Intercontinental Championship has been the one hole in Sheamus' WWE legacy for years. He's joked about it himself. Fans have joked about it. Right before all of this started gaining steam, he had even been leaning into the joke online, which made some people think he might be teasing a return and one last chase for the only belt that escaped him. Instead, it turns out he may have been much closer to the exit door than anybody realized. That is the kind of twist wrestling fans obsess over. Because now the story isn't, will Sheamus finally complete the Grand Slam in WWE? It's, did WWE just let one of the most believable plug-and-play stars of his generation walk straight into the open market? And once that question hit, the reaction started immediately. Within hours, people in AEW were already talking. MJF jumped on social media and pulled up an old exchange with Sheamus, then threw out a line that basically felt like a public challenge. He told him to bring that smoke, even using the old O'Shaughnessy name to really drive the point home. That is not random. When MJF decides to make noise about somebody from WWE becoming available, fans listen. Not because it guarantees anything, but because he usually does not waste his time on names he thinks are irrelevant. If he's putting the spotlight on you that quickly, it means your name is already circulating in the rooms that matter. Then Ricochet chimed in too, shutting down fan excitement in his own way and joking that neither Sheamus nor New Day were coming in, while also saying he'd have no problem handling Sheamus himself. That matters for a different reason. It shows the idea had already spread fast enough that AEW talent felt the